Hey, what's going on, everybody? Brad here. Just wanted to let you know that this episode features a spoiler conversation that I had with executive producers and showrunners Scott Kreamer and Aaron Hammersley. Please do not listen to this episode until you have finished watching all of Jurassic World Chaos Theory. Again, full spoilers within this conversation, but if you have seen the show, then enjoy.
So you show up here, prank call me, then go on and on.
I didn't prank call you. I didn't call you at all. It wasn't your fault.
I had met her that night, then...
No, that's why I'm here. I've been reading some stuff on Dark Jurassic. Brooklyn's death was no accident. She was targeted.
But why? Who would even want to do that?
I don't know for sure, but whoever killed Brooklyn is coming after the rest of us too. We need to warn the others. Sammy, Angie, Yas.
We've got a problem.
What am I supposed to be looking at here?
The sensor's not working. Hang on a sec.
Help me out here.
Get in between two girlfriends?
No, thanks.
Okay. Fixed it. Oh my gosh, are you okay? I am so sorry.
There he is. You said you'd be here. Want to make a little chaos? This is really happening?
Yeah, it's happening.
There's a lot that I would love to ask about this series, but I assume some of the plot points I'll try to keep, in the background because I bet you a lot of stuff will get answered in later seasons. But there's a lot of plot points that I think are really, really incredible, and it opens up the world building in this show. One of the points I wanted to kind of dig into with you guys is the timeline, because I was diving into the Jurassic timeline. Dominion's going down in like 2022. I believe Chaos Theory is like a few months prior to that. We know that Big Rock was 1 year after Fallen Kingdom. Bear with me. There's a lot of like dates and stuff here. And then that places that I think in like 2019 with Big Rock. So within the timeline, considering that there's flashbacks within Chaos Theory, are you able to like express where the Brooklyn attack occurs? Is it something that's before Big Rock or after Big Rock?
It's after Big Rock. It's after Big Rock, and if I was at the office, we've got a document where we have everything in there. But it is, I can tell you safely that it is after Big Rock.
Yeah, sometimes a lot of these topics get like they're pretty clear. I feel like within the show and everything, but I just love to get like concrete, details.
Sure.
Yeah, speaking of the show and how much it's dealing with within the Jurassic universe, I feel like it actually doesn't have to fully connect with everything that Dominions did, So was it important to your team to kind of carve its own canonical path instead of just dropping characters like Soyono Santos or Rain Delacourt or Louis Dodgson just right off the bat in season 1?
Yeah, we're at this point where we're between the films. And, we've got this sort of, we know where the films are headed. It reminds me a little bit of like when the early episodes of Camp Cretaceous where we know that Indominus is breaking out, but we've got a little time before then. So, we definitely are keeping all of the events to come and that have passed in mind. But this was sort of like, okay, these are our characters, and let's tell the story that we want to within, we can do a more intimate job of telling the story of what it's like to live alongside dinosaurs and get just kind of a more personal version of that. So, yeah, we're in this kind of box where as long as we don't mess with anything that's coming up, that we sort of have our own part of the sandbox.
Yeah, Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I think the cool thing is that because it's semi-tangential, we get this opportunity. It's like almost like an upstairs downstairs thing where it's like, okay, well, Dominion is the upstairs and here's our downstairs. This is a separate story running at the same time. And I don't know, to me it was really fun to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And use as much as we could from Dominion and have it affect our story when it made sense. But then, not feel completely beholden to it.
Yeah, but let's say you have an Allosaurus who takes a crossbow bolt or two near the eye. Let's say there's some Nasutoceratops who are going to grow bigger, maybe hang out in, near gas stations. So it was definitely fun playing with everything, including Big Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. There's little touchstones, I think, throughout this story that play into the larger story, right? You mentioned Big Rock. I feel like there was like a mention of locusts and different things like that. So we have these things, but yet it's doing its own thing, and I really appreciate that. And speaking of that, like you didn't even bring back like the Nublar Rex outside of I'm assuming the intro. I'm assuming that was supposed to be the Nublar Rex, but like no Nublar Rex, no Blue, which is honestly like a pretty big deal. Like, was there any kind of like pressure to include them, or were you pretty confident in the dinosaurs that you brought into this series?
No, I mean, if anything, bringing in a dinosaur that may or may not be Big Edie at the end there, we were looking at making that the Nublar Rex, but it didn't quite jive timeline wise with the prologue and the drive-in. So that's why that happened. But no, I would say that we weren't pressured to show up with Blue or Beta or anything like that.
Yeah.
Only pressure I think that we had, and not really pressure, but there were some requests that because all of our characters were older, is there any way we can, squeeze in like a younger character? That was the only.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I love that. It's bold, and I love the choices that were made to, you get rid of some characters and just focus on the ones that you wanted to focus on. I think that was really good. Speaking of one, there's one character in this show, and what in the world is Microbangs? And because that was easily the creepiest character I think to ever exist in the Jurassic franchise. Please tell me about that character. What's going on?
Okay, well, I'll tell you where it started, in that we liked like something more primitive. All these things start with just brainstorming. So we like the idea of, well, what's the step before lasers? And it's like, okay, well, like a dog whistle kind of thing. Well, who would be running this show? Who would be leading these raptors? And then we just started, someone who's more comfortable around raptors than they are around people. And we just started getting maybe they're nonverbal. We had many different ideas, and then Aaron sort of just like got an idea as far as a character design, and he started going to town, and then he was working with JP, our art director, and Will, our character designer, and then Aaron just sort of like, I got a vision for this. And there's bad bangs and a lot of freckles. And then, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had a few things in mind. One was sort of trying to create a character. The film No Country for Old Men, Anton Sugar. That villain is like iconic. And I thought we could sort of borrow a little bit from that. I think, and then the other thing that I referenced a little bit was Twin Peaks, just in terms of it being a very odd character that creeps you out. So, and then I wanted the character to sort of almost be reptilian in nature, hence the like sort of heavily freckled skin and almost no eyebrows. And just, I think just the character not speaking and just being singularly focused made for an added layer of scary. That was the
For sure. And it worked, like, because the entire time during the trailers and whatnot, and we see the Atrociraptor, I think the entire Jurassic fandom is just like, okay, it's Soyono Santos from Dominion. That's going to be a really cool crossover. And then you shock us with this character, and I was like, whoa, this is super creepy. And I loved how it was like something completely different than we were expecting or used to. So that was pretty awesome. That was cool. And I like, you said, you explained it perfectly. Nonverbal, kind of like reptilian in a way. The way that this character is like embracing these dinosaurs and in a different, unique way. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, early ideas we had, well, does she have scars all over herself from getting to know the dinosaurs and the way they nip at one another? But yeah, I think we're really happy with how she came out.
Can you talk a little bit about this dinosaur-free zone that Yaz is living in? I think it's honestly like a super interesting scenario, and honestly, like gives me vibes of like Jurassic Park and the conversations that they had in that movie, because there was a lot of like obviously like ethical debate issues in Jurassic Park and here with like, could this place truly help people? But it also hides them from the world. It ends up failing, right? And then. But at the same time, I feel like it did actually help Yaz. Like, she's obviously doing a lot better. So can you talk a little bit about the idea of bringing this place to life?
Yeah, I mean, it all started, like, you're probably sick of me saying it, Brad. It always starts with the characters. And so this definitely started with, well, where would Yaz be? What would Yaz be doing? Yaz, we always imagine, would be helping others who have suffered the way she has. And then we kind of... when we stumbled upon this idea of the dino free zone, it was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, and this island in the middle of this big lake and everything like that. So it just, again, the whole, a big part of sort of figuring out what this show was going to be was, what would the world look like? And you could see, and there's definitely a world where I think it was like, well, the ultra rich live in these areas with that. But we definitely wanted to approach it from Yaz's point of view, and it just felt like a place, like almost like a sanitarium where they were trying to keep out dinosaurs. And then, of course, these are people who have suffered more and traumatized more. And then we rack up our biggest body count. So, but that was just where it all started, and it was definitely a fun kind of concept to explore.
Sure.
And one of the other things, with that, I remember us talking about is in terms of like checking back in with Yaz, like what's she doing, and her being, wanting to get her degree in psychology. There was a lot of conversation about like, different types of therapy and stuff. And I remember mentioning that my wife had done like equine therapy. And so then that kind of got us down the path of like immersion therapy and how could we use that, and the sort of the hologram idea came up, and it felt like just a really good fit for this world to use all of that. And the island itself, I think, is sort of an interesting. It's like, I think Yazzie even mentions this, that she's like, yeah, some of these islands are like glorified, like vacation homes almost, but in most of these places, we're trying to do like real work and help people recover from their trauma. But yeah, it kind of makes me think of a place like Celebration, Florida, or something, where you have these neighborhoods or places sequestered and trying to wall out the rest of the world. And so it felt like a really, like, that probably would happen if we had, dinosaurs roaming about. We would probably be on some sort of island.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. I want to ask about, like, obviously one of the biggest things I think from this series is Brooklyn, right? So you kill off Brooklyn. When that idea started floating around, was it always going to be that like she was going to have this twist at the end where she's actually still alive, or were you considering killing her off entirely and really traumatizing those kids?
No, she was always going to be alive, and but we weren't always gonna. It wasn't always gonna be the end. Like we this went through so many permutations of what the story was. It was always going to be a conspiracy thriller, and always knew how it was beginning. But there's a world where Brooklyn was going to come back earlier in the season, and then everyone, plenty of people said, "Oh, she's not dead." So, we definitely wanted to go, okay, well, what still keeps the stakes real? And which is when our supervising producer, Zae-Sung Kang, pitched the idea, well, what if she loses part of her arm? And it's like, well, that sounds like that is a great idea. And that keeps the stakes real and still allow us to bring her back. But yet so many, we wanted to answer some questions along the way, but her coming back opens up a whole bunch new ones. What's she been doing? Why didn't she say anything? How did she deal with losing part of her arm? Like, what's going on? Where is she now? So it was definitely always the plan as far as her being alive, but we weren't definitely set on how and when she would be revealed.
Yeah, I love that the show really did bring up the stakes, I think, a lot with, obviously I was one of those people at the start that is like, oh, I don't think she's dead. I think that's pretty bold if they did that, but the stakes were still there, right? So you met the stakes, and then you also added in more with like characters like Daniel being in this show, coming back, which actually really surprised me, and then killing him off like for real. It seems like, at least. So was like an idea of killing Daniel? Was that something that was floated around ever back in Camp Cretaceous, or was that uniquely brought in for Chaos Theory?
Oh, well, we definitely had many conversations in the writer's room as far as how Daniel was what his final fate in Camp Cretaceous was going to be. So there was definitely a non-zero chance. We almost killed him back then. And then it wasn't, when you start thinking about, well, who would want us dead? His name was at the top of the list. So that was definitely, it felt like that's where the kids' minds would definitely go to. And then how it all played out just sort of, came out of, brainstorming with Bethany and the writers and Aaron and Z. And we just, and just so we're clear, he did.
Okay, I was like, I don't want to say for sure. I didn't see the body. Well,
yeah, he did not make it out.
Oh, poor Daniel. We did see some blood this season, which was pretty cool. Like we're stepping up the stakes, and we got the blood, we've got the arm loss, or the hand loss. Like it's pretty real. So I feel like the stakes were definitely there, and it felt, even if we knew that Brooklyn wasn't fully dead, it felt real. So I got to give a lot of credit where it's due. So that was pretty great. Did any of the other Nublar 6, were they ever on like the chopping block at all, or was it strictly Brooklyn?
All of them. They were all on the chopping block.
Look, Brad, who are we? No, it always made sense when we started coming up with the idea for the show. Brooklyn's the one who's out there asking the questions. Brooklyn's the one who wants to be an investigative journalist and is poking her nose and wanting to, unbox corruption and shady dealings regarding the dinosaurs. So it just, from the get-go, it felt like she would be the one to kind of kick off this story this way.
Yeah, and let me just get a point straight, I guess, for my own sake, was because there was a line in there somewhere about how she was, I guess, killed off, right? Was it the Allosaurus, or was it Atrociraptors hunting her?
Gosh, I'm not sure.
Uh-oh.
Like, it felt like, No, it did. Sorry, I just thought I'd mess with you, Brett.
You did.
Yeah, I mean, look, the whole series, it felt like, yeah, the Allosaurus was definitely the culprit, but I think in that final episode, we learned that, yeah, it was the handler and the Atrociraptors who were there as well. Now, as far as how it all went down, we don't explicitly say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. It definitely, like, the show really keeps a lot of mystery, but also, to be honest, like, it answers a lot of the questions we had, going into the series. So, like, when I'm thinking about spoiler details and plot points, I'm like, well, there's not, like, we really know a lot of them. And like I said at the beginning, there's things that I would love to ask, but you're not going to answer, like, about this broker or the, some of the dinosaurs and things like that. So I love that you actually answered a lot of the questions within the series itself. Another one that kind of made me question and think about a little bit was Dudley Cabrera. He's kind of, I love that he's portrayed as like this good dude, right? He's kind of like, at the top of the DPW there and calling the shots, but then he kind of plays dumb a little bit, I think, when asked about the Atrociraptors. He's like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. But then later on, he fires the Microbangs character. Is that the official? Are we going with Microbangs? Is that what we should be calling her, like, in the fandom?
Well, in scripts, we call her the handler.
Okay. The handler. All right. I like that.
The kids do call her creepy Microbangs, but we call her the handler.
Okay. Yeah. What was the connection between, I guess, if you can say, Dudley and the handler? Is there any connection there that we should know about?
Well, I think he thought that she was working for him. I don't know if you're a Breaking Bad fan.
Oh, yeah.
But so it's sort of like, Saul thinks Mike Ehrmantraut's working for him, but he's got someone else he's answering to. So I would say something akin to that.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and that makes me, that's what I'm saying about this world building, right? It makes me think about, we didn't hit these connections right now for the wider world, but there's a chance that we're going to connect those dots in the future, and maybe we're leading to certain places. So I love that, you didn't close any books, you didn't like fully open a ton, but you've left it like on the table for places like, the podcast to keep considering and thinking about all these options. So I really appreciate that from
we're trying to keep you and give you and Tom stuff to talk about. And that's really when we got into this, it was like, okay, well, what can we do for Brad? And this is where we're at.
Oh, I love it. We do know that dinosaurs are going all over the world, right? So we've got, I think Darius said it at one point about dinosaurs going to Malaysia, Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, Malta. I'll be honest, it sounds like your animators have a lot of, their hands full for the coming seasons, right? Is that accurate?
Well, if we're lucky enough to do future seasons, that boat's going somewhere, and it's probably not America. So, we're definitely, as we're broadening out this, we're broadening out the story. We're definitely following the money and following the dinosaurs.
All right, so last one here. Brooklynn, we know, is alive. Is there anything you can tease about her future or anything? Because she's definitely steeped in a lot of mess here.
Well, we definitely have a lot of questions. We answered a lot of questions, like you said, but we still have a lot more questions to answer, and most of those are surrounding Brooklynn and what happened and where's she been and why she not telling anyone where she's been and what's she doing now, and
who's she dating now? That's what I want.
What's she wearing?
Yeah.
Where does she get her haircut? Because it looks great.
We're very excited about that too. But more importantly, it's like Brooklyn, as we've asked all these questions going during the season about, well, who is Brooklyn really? Did we know who she is? And I'm not sure we did. So we're gonna definitely have to. She has always been probably the most capable of all the camp fam, and so that will definitely be something interesting that hopefully we'll explore.
Well, thank you for keeping her alive. I think she's a great character, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
We were happy to do it.
5 minutes. Drop what you're doing and leave now.